Aviation experts sometimes say that Messerschmitt planes were amazing in everything that Messerschmitt didn't even touch. For instance, it had amazing Daimler-Benz engines, great Bosch hydraulics, zippy Siemens electrics, far-reaching Lorenz AG radio, and sharp Carl Zeiss optics. All they had to do was use them properly, and that's where they encountered some issues. Here's the famous two-engined Me-410 multi-role fighter. By the time World War II began, it had already become obvious that long-range heavy fighters weren't the best idea at all. Of course, the Bf-110 could escort bombers throughout the whole mission, but what's the point if it couldn't keep up with single-engine fighters' speed and maneuverability? Well, they could install better engines, but a single obstacle was in the way. Messerschmitt designed the wing to be single-spar, exactly like on all their other planes. It wasn't even a disadvantage. It was a flaw so fatal that some engineers would call it a result of the terminal decision syndrome. Messerschmitt used it once and then kept using it on all later projects. It performed well on light sport aircraft. It was okay-ish on early single-engine Bf-109s. But for the 110, with its heavy engines and radiators putting load onto the wing, it was, to say the least, unsuitable. With low torsional stiffness, such a wing struggled to carry the DB601 engines, and the future would soon bring more powerful ones, the DB605, and those were even heavier. As for the DB603, well, they had a total volume of almost 45 liters and a mass reaching a whole ton. No way could they fit that monster onto the old construction. A new plane was required. More compact, lighter, faster, with stronger engines and better weapons, everything was improved in the replacement of the 110, except for one thing: that damned single-spar wing. Messerschmitt simply ignored all the pleas of its engineers. The old fundamental design flaw erased any and all improvements the new fighter was to have. It turned out to be unstable, flimsy, and so shaky mid-air that pilots were scared of taking it to the skies. Naturally, after the fighter hit mass production, improving the wing was a pure nightmare for the engineers. It basically required starting from scratch. Simply said, the task looked insurmountable. Messerschmitt's direct order was to keep the wing single-spar. Moreover, the total weight of the plane could not be increased. And on top of all that, the new Me-410 that replaced the discredited Me-210 was going to get the strong, heavy DB603 engines. Just imagine. The Me-210 performed its maiden flight in September 1939 in the first days of the war. Meanwhile, the early improved prototype of the Me-410 only made it by the autumn of 1942, when the Blitzkrieg had failed. The Axis powers were already losing in North Africa, and German cities and factories were facing the threat of massive bombings. The 410 saw a whole range of modifications, but retained its status as the most issue-ridden Luftwaffe plane until the end of the war. Even despite the fact that better alternatives were available, like the Heinkel 219 or the Arado 240, Germany stubbornly continued making hundreds of these controversial Messerschmitt planes. The latter, by the way, never learned the lesson. They built more planes for Germany, like the four-engined Me-264 or the jet Me-262. Guess what the main problem was in their development? Right! The same old single-spar wing.